Week 9 of the 2025 college football season is in the books, and the picture is becoming a little bit more clearer on who the top teams in the country are. Giovanni Heater alongside Raza Umarani with you. We welcome you in to Got It Covered. And Raza, another great week of college football. A lot of fun games to talk about here. Some big storylines as well.
Yeah, SEC keeps on delivering and delivering. A lot of big teams were on bye this week. A lot of teams playing in like pouring rain. I don't know if you noticed that, like Oregon, Miami. You flip to the like Fox and ESPN, and it's just torrential downpours. One of them looked a little bit better in the rain than the other. But I think the you led with the right point, right? The picture is becoming more clear. The college football playoff rankings are 1 week away. Excited to react to that when they drop next Tuesday. And I think that barring something crazy this upcoming week, for the first time, it feels like we have a pretty good idea on what the top 10 to 15 is going to look like. So we'll see how it plays out next week. I don't want to count our chickens before they hatch, but the cream is starting to rise to the top, so to speak.
It feels like we're doing this every week at this point, but we lead the show with another set of breaking news and another coaching fire here. LSU fires head coach Brian Kelly after going 34-14 in his time in Baton Rouge as the head man of the Tigers. This is a team, Raza, though, that was 5-11 under Brian Kelly against ranked opponents. Felt like it never really got going. You could make arguments all the way back to his first couple of seasons there. You wasted a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in Jaden Daniels. You kind of right the ship this year and finally get the defensive side of the football where it needs to be at a competitive level, and the offense isn't there. But more than anything, it feels like the biggest problem to me was that Brian Kelly never understood the most important thing about the acronym LSU, and that was the L. He never embraced Louisiana. He never embraced what it means to be a Tiger, what it means to be a part of that LSU fan base community. Like it's one of those cult programs, right? It means more there. It's not just a saying there. And it just felt like Brian Kelly never made himself a part of that. And I think it made it that much easier for the university to decide to fire him, because when the results on the field aren't there, and on top of it, it feels like there was no true connection between the coach and the fan base and the school to begin with. What are you clinging on to? And they end up firing him after the blowout loss at home to Texas A&M on Saturday.
Yeah, if the closest thing we got to Brian Kelly embracing Louisiana was the fake accent when he got hired at the basketball game, which is a crazy thing, by the way, to look back on. It was crazy. It was crazy in the moment.
It was crazy then. We made fun of it then.
It's even crazier now. And like, this is a results-driven industry, so we can start there. I saw a tweet earlier that was like Nick Saban, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron, Brian Kelly, each of their first 4 years at LSU, they either won the SEC, won a national championship. Brian Kelly did none of those things and also had the worst win-loss record of the four in his first 4 seasons. Like the highlight of Brian Kelly's tenure, I guess, was going to the SEC championship game in 2022. They got steamrolled by Georgia, and I guess if you want to take it back, the reason they went is because they beat Bama earlier in the year. Remember in the overtime game. Is that the highlight of the tenure? Because if so, that's a problem. I think recruiting was never at its best under Brian Kelly. You just saw last year, like what an impactful flip DeCorian Moore was. They losing DeCorian Moore. I mean, I understand how effective they were getting these receivers in the portal, but we thought they were going to be this high flying offense. They weren't. Recruiting was at a low. They lost Bryce Underwood obviously last year as well. So in that aspect, also you lose recruiting, not just in the state of Louisiana, which should be easy enough as is. LSU should recruit itself, but on a national scale, it felt like LSU was not being respected like they were previously, because Brian Kelly is kind of corrosive is not the right word, but he's not like the most welcoming figure in the world. You have these recruits on visits and they're doing the weird 360 camera and he's doing like weird dances and stuff and everybody's making fun of him for it. And he's a guy that I don't think people want to play for, and you don't realize you don't want to play for him until it's too late. When it's something to be said, Gio, when this guy gets fired and you have like a dozen former players that are currently in the NFL that are posting subliminal, like, get the hell out of here type of things. I don't know if you saw the video that Malik Neighbors posted, right? Malik Neighbors posted the guy kicking rocks, like telling Brian Kelly to go kick rocks. You had current players, like Whit Weeks posted on his Twitter, like himself at Death Valley with a purple heart emoji. Like, I don't think he's just tweeting that because he's happy to be a Tiger. No, like he's happy that his coach is gone. And people who think this is a rash decision because like, oh, he still has 50 million on his buyout and all this other stuff. Like, no, you have to realize that you have to cut ties with somebody like this. This is different than James Franklin at Penn State, because I think Penn State owes James Franklin a lot. Obviously they owe him a lot of money, but I think they owe him a lot in, another kind of currency. Yeah. LSU doesn't owe Brian Kelly nothing.
No,
nothing, because I think he went there in the first place. The gutter. Exactly. He ran the program into the gutter. I think whoever succeeds him, obviously there's a lot of pressure at LSU, but like, no, dude, it's not like you have these massive shoes to fill. Like, this is a different conversation, but I have one guy who I feel like is going to be the guy. I actually have two. Well, who do you think could succeed LSU, Brian Kelly at LSU?
I honestly haven't given it a ton of thought. Maybe not as much thought as I've given some of the other jobs as well, especially in the immediate aftermath. That's kind of the first thing that comes up, but that hasn't come up here yet for me. I want to entertain your thought, but I also want to bring up a point here. Like, it has always felt like Brian Kelly is thinking in the interest of Brian Kelly. That's how it felt when he left to go to Notre Dame. That's how it felt when he left Cincinnati to go to Notre Dame. That's how it feels when he left Notre Dame to go to LSU. And that's still how it feels now. If you're paying attention at all during these games, have you ever seen a sideline and a staff that looks more dysfunctional and unhappy than LSU's?
No, he's screaming at everybody.
So that's my exact point. He's well aware. He's a smart man. He has a law degree, right? Brian Kelly's a smart man. He's well aware that he's close to the chopping block, right? And he's probably going to be faced with making decisions in order to, again, save the best interest of Brian Kelly, right? And so what's been the problem? The offense hasn't been good this year. So who's on the chopping block? Obviously your offensive coordinator and Joe Sloan, right? And he's not dumb, Raza. He's chewing out Joe Sloan on national television, like going nuts on him. He knows cameras are going to be pointed that way. And that was his way of showing administration, like, oh, yeah, like, we're going to move on from Sloan. This is on Sloan. This is Sloan's fault. Like, we're going to get rid of Sloan and then we're going to be fine. Like, to cover his own tail. Like, give me a break. Like, that's toxic. It felt toxic to see.
After they fired their offensive coordinator last year, by the way.
Right. And good on LSU for being like, all right, nah, actually, you're gonna go.
Yeah, root and stem.
And it's a big buyout to swallow. And if you're an LSU fan, you're probably feeling, because obviously it's not like you actually work for the administration and you're the donors coughing up the money. If you're an LSU fan, you get to wake up today and be like, all right, who are we gonna hire? Let's move on. You know what I mean? Like, if you're an LSU fan, let's
throw a stick of butter on the grill, throw some shrimp and some pasta, some jambalaya on the grill.
You're stoked that your administration was willing to fork up that buyout because it's big boy. I mean, it's now the second highest ever.
Did you see the government wanted to get in on it? Like the governor or senator or something, they were like, yeah, we'll front the 54 million. Like, and the literal state of Louisiana wanted him gone.
And that hammers home my point of he never got Louisiana. He never got, I mean, it's more than just saying like it's the flagship school in the state. Like, no. LSU football is religion there.
Yes.
And
they care about LSU way more than they care about the Saints.
Have you ever heard of the governor getting in on the buyout? That's how bad they want. They're chasing him out of Baton Rouge with pitchforks and flames and torches right now.
Which
Like,
is the way it should be, because they can't tolerate that. Again, first 4 years under every other coach, they either won a championship in the SEC or won it. That thumbs up. They won a championship nationally. Like that's not what they did at all under Brian Kelly. In fact, they were never particularly close, because even when they went to the championship game with Jaden Daniels, we knew they were going to get crushed. Like, because that was year one Jaden at LSU. That wasn't
yeah.
Heisman Jaden. Heisman Jaden, they were a 3-loss team despite having 3 of the most prolific rookies the NFL has ever seen. So it was a mess from the start. And I think you make a good point, because like Coach O is a unique case where he like was LSU. He embodied it.
Yeah.
But even Les and Saban, I think, got it. They got the job. They understood the assignment. I think Brian Kelly, I never liked the fit, man. I just never liked the fit, because this is a guy from the Midwest. He is not going to understand what it means to be an LSU Tiger. And 4 years later, he just never got it.
And to your point about Saban's not from there. Saban's a West Virginia guy who was coming from Michigan State at the time. Nothing about the Bayou there, but he got it. He got it. And you literally assimilate, I think, is the perfect adjective or the perfect verb for it.
Also, no. Brian Kelly was beefing with the media, which is never a good sign.
Never. Like, and there's those LSU writers have been there a heck of a lot longer than any football coach.
And like saying remember he was like, what do you mean we can't run the ball? Did you see the last play of the game? And like they had a 50-yard run at the end of the game, but that didn't change the fact they had like 30 carries for 40 yards earlier in the game. Like,
right.
I'm sorry, dude. My eyes still work. And you said it, beefing with reporters, beefing with the coaching staff, yelling at his players on the sideline, yelling at his assistants on the sideline. He told his special teams coach, like, it's going to cost you your job, when they gave up the punt return touchdown to Texas A&M. He was screaming at Joe Sloan in the headset, talking about, like, why are you throwing a pass on whatever, like 3rd and goal in the red zone? It's everything. It's a long list of who was the player last year that he yelled at on the sideline saying, like, you're uncoachable? Like, I think it was Kyron Lacey.
It might have been.
Wasn't it?
Might have been.
Which is like, and dude, you even think back to what happened, you know, with Brooks. Remember, he had the tumor on his brain, and the team didn't care about it.
Yes.
And he never even visited him in the hospital. And now the kid's in a wheelchair. Like, it's a disastrous 4 years.
The way that was handled. Now, we don't know all the details, but the way it looks is disgusting. I have disliked Brian Kelly since then.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're going to look back on this tenure with a lot more scorn than we are looking at it right now.
And
especially if the next guy succeeds and also is like loved and anything. Like, I'm telling you, this should be a grand slam hire for LSU, no matter who it is, because I just think the shoes are not big to fill in any way. I think they're just going to wipe the Brian Kelly era off, which is a shame, because they had some great talent. Like, again, they had a Heisman winning quarterback. They had Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, and even guys like Harold Perkins. And
they'll continue to bring those guys in, though. It's LSU.
They will, because LSU sells itself. In that vein, can I give you the 2 names I was thinking of?
Please.
I think the obvious answer is John Sumrall, because
he's right there. He wouldn't even have to move.
He's right there. He's literally right there. But I understand why you would maybe not want to grab a guy from the group of 5. I understand that, like, it's not the sexy hire, but like Indiana hired Kurt Cignetti from James Madison, which hadn't
Indiana and LSU are 2 different.
That's true. I'm just saying, we can see the offensive innovators kind of speak for themselves no matter where they are. If you want to stay in the SEC, you know who I would go after?
Let's hear it. You can say
I would go after.
Yeah, Eli Drinkwitz.
Yeah. I think Eli Drinkwitz, because it's not that Missouri is a difficult place to win, but there's something to be said about Missouri being a consistent top 20 team in the last 2 years, like 2-3 years even. Like, I understand they've had good quarterbacks, right? They had Drew Lock and Brady Cook, and now they have Perdue, although he's out for the season now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I think if you want to stay in the SEC, if Kiffin leaves, I don't think he'd leave for LSU. So I think Drink would be the guy.
I don't think Kiffin's leaving. I will say this, though, to your point about Kiffin not leaving for LSU, I would actually disagree. If he was going to leave, I think overnight, LSU is now the best coaching job open right now. I think it's better than Florida. It's better than Penn State.
100%.
By far and away, it's the best. And it's really not that close.
I think it's a top 5 to 7 job in the country, right? You'd probably go like Ohio State, Michigan, Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia. LSU would be right there, right? It's probably top 5. You might be able to kick out Michigan.
I was gonna say I'd put LSU top 3, if not top 1. Like, what makes it not 1?
Really?
What makes it not 1?
I think historical precedence of a place like Notre Dame.
Sure.
A place like Ohio State.
You got the best stadium in the country. You've got.
I think it's the best in the South.
The best in the SEC, best job, you're saying?
Yeah, the best south of the Mason-Dixon line, period.
I think there's it's no question top 5, serious argument for top 3, and it has its darts to throw at being the best job in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so regardless, stupid conversation, short list.
Yes.
And Florida and Penn State don't really hold a torch to the LSU job. They're close.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're in that top 10, top 15 echelon, probably top 10, you know, because you do have to look at Florida and remember what it once was. And it's hard to do that sometimes.
But both programs have previous heights that they want to get back to. But like LSU, I mean, you nailed it, right? Best stadium. They have a unbelievable backing from both its fan base and its donors and its boosters and all these things. Like it's a self-selling thing that if you have the right coach in place, dude, you're going to be a top 5 team every year.
Yeah. I guess my point in like what you said is if I'm Lane and I am going to leave Ole Miss, it's not for Florida. It's for LSU or I'm not leaving.
That's, I think, a valid point.
That's just me. I think with both vacancies open, it changes things dramatically. You mentioned LSU's fan base, Raza, and I'll tell you what, great fan base. Don't get me wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Unless they're down after the half by a score or more in a night game and they want to hit the streets early and
go get some gumbo
traffic, because Texas A&M absolutely put belt to ass in the second half on Saturday night, dude. 49-25 the final score. Late LSU touchdown, really didn't even feel like it was that close. This is the first 8-0 start for Texas A&M since 1992. Mike Elko in year 2 has the Aggies humming. They went to Death Valley and completely took over. They were doing their traditions, singing songs, singing the alma mater with their whole clan of fans at Tiger Stadium after the game. LSU fans, the ones that stuck around, because the stadium had pretty much emptied, but the ones that stuck around to boo Brian Kelly. Like, it was complete flip of the script, turnover, like unlike anything I don't know if I've ever seen. I don't know if I've ever seen Tiger Stadium be turned on its head like that at night. And Brian Kelly going into this game was 20-1 in night games as the head coach. And I said, okay, great. 20-1. That's cool. Also 5-10 going into the game against ranked opponents, right? One side of that came out to be more effective. Now 20-2 in night games at Tiger Stadium, because this was a tail whooping.
It was. It's funny you mentioned, like, I don't remember LSU. I think the last time LSU just got crushed like this in a primetime setting at home was when Tua went in there and they won. Was it like 26-0? Remember the first year they had Joe Burrow, they played Alabama at home and they got shut out. Remember, it was like 1v3 or 1v4 or something, and they just got crushed. And that was the first loss that they had with Joe Burrow as their quarterback. This was different because Is it weird to say that 49-25 feels like the game was closer than it actually was? Like it never felt. I understand that, right? Marcel Reed threw 2 first half interceptions, one of them on a tip that is tipped by a Mansour Lane and picked off by Harold Perkins, and then there was a safety as well, right, on a blocked punt or a mishandled punt or something.
Blocked.
And those were like the only reasons why LSU was remotely in the game, which is crazy to say because they were up by 4 at halftime. But we were texting each other, like, even up by 4 at half, and even with LSU having gone on a couple of nice long extended possessions where Garrett Nussmeier looked like the player we thought he was going to be going into the season, like Texas A&M was in control the whole game.
Yep.
They never felt like they were not the ones in control. And I got to give a ton of credit to Marcel Reed for bouncing back. Those mistakes can have a big impact on a young player. He just got up, dusted off his shoulder. He said, I'm going to, hit my guy here. I'm going to get the ball to KC Concepcion here. I'm going to scramble out of bounds here. I'm going to do the Lamar Jackson juke into the end zone here. He was like unflappable for a kid of his age. That's like really impressive. And
He's
it's
19.
a game like this. I think he's a redshirt sophomore, right? So I guess he's 20, 21.
Okay. Sure.
But even still, like, to bounce back in that way, in that spot, in that environment when you're down on the scoreboard going into halftime, like, they've got what feels like the perfect blend of talent and, like, I use this word for lack of a better term, characters.
Yeah.
On their team. Did you see Cassius Howell?
Yes. He is a freak.
Dude.
But that's a culture building kind of guy. Like, it's funny and all,
Yes.
and it's awesome, but that is like a culture building locker room guy.
Yes.
Did you see, like, before they even had that clip, and I know what clip you're talking about where he's going nuts and stuff. Dude, the hit on Garrett Nussmeier earlier in the game where he comes behind and blindside, and Nussmeier didn't even see him. Like, it just felt like that was the play for me. That was the play. It was on LSU's first drive, I think. That was the play that I was like, oh, it's going to be a long night.
Yeah, they set the tone.
Yeah.
And they can do it in every which way. Like, yeah, they can beat Auburn, what was it, like 17-10, and then they can go beat Notre Dame 42-41, and they can go beat LSU 49-20. Like, they can do it every
LSU's
which way.
Defense is good, right, Raza?
That was supposed to be their calling card.
Right.
And, well, they got Ole Miss put up some yards against them, and then A&M just comes in, and it really got out of control in the third quarter, right? When A&M gets the ball first, they go down, score a touchdown, then force like a 3-and-out, and then return the punt for a touchdown. I was like, oh my God, it's getting out of hand. Like,
that's when we were going nuts.
That's when we were going pretty bonkers. Because that was, I think, the first touchdown was when Marcel had that Lamar move, and I was like, holy smokes.
And that wasn't even his Heisman moment of the game. The first touchdown of the game to go up 7-0, his like 50-yard touchdown run, that was nuts. And it was a complete scramble, but the way he cuts it back and dives into the end zone, I was like, watching that live.
To stay up and reach, it's like, that's crazy.
Watching that live, I was like, that's a Heisman moment kind of play.
And I said when they beat Notre Dame on this program, we can go back and pull up the footage. I was like, he just looks like Jaden Daniels. The way he moves, the way he's got these strides where like he's just running at a faster pace than everybody, but the way he can also step back there and let it rip. He's got a really good arm for a guy of his stature. Yeah. And I remember you were like, yeah, I guess I could see it, but like nobody's quite Jaden Daniels. And then during this game, I think it was during that run, a kid like that ripping off that run in that stadium, you were like, shoot, he kind of does look like Jaden.
He literally does. They have the same body.
They do. Like, they're lean,
their physique
and they're
is
fast,
same, man.
And it's kind of selfish of me to say this, but like, I'm kind of rooting for him to win the Heisman. He's like such a fun player to watch. And of the Heisman contenders, I guess it's like him and Pavia, but I don't want Pavia to win the Heisman with all due respect. Like, he's the dual threat guy that would get it done. And I think that would be a ton of fun because he had his Jaden moments. He had his Lamar moments. And that doesn't even talk about the D. We talked about Cassius Howell, but that doesn't talk about the rest of the defensive line, which is just absolute monsters. It doesn't talk about KC Concepcion, who gets it done week in and week out. It doesn't talk about Mario Craver, who's been an absolute stud. Le'Veon Moss out of the backfield. Like, But Marcel Reed is the story of the game because he had 300 total yards and 4 total touchdowns. He had 100 yards on the ground. Like,
Yeah.
this is I said it weeks ago, right? If they feel like the most well-rounded team in the SEC, and I understand Bama's right there, especially with the way their defense is playing, but this A&M team, there's a reason there's a 0 in the loss column, right? Alabama still has that loss to Florida State. Really, again, interested to see what the CFP committee does next week as it pertains to Alabama, because that loss is horrible in retrospect. But this A&M team, I wouldn't be surprised if they're ranked second, like over Indiana going into that ranking.
Especially because
coming out of it.
especially because it shouldn't play a factor, but a little bit of the recency. All of a sudden, Indiana's win at Oregon was 3 weeks ago now,
Mm-hmm.
and then A&M just did this. We'll see. They play Missouri this weekend.
Yeah.
A&M plays
With a backup
at Missouri. True, backup quarterback, and Missouri's coming off a loss. So that loses its luster a little bit. Like, they're out of the top 25. They were 19th, and they lost this weekend. So probably not going to push the needle, if you will. But I mean, dude, now you're looking at A&M's probably not going to lose a game.
Yeah, their toughest game is at Texas at the end of the year.
Which rivalry, I get it. You throw everything out the window, but A&M's going to be coming for blood the way that it went in College Station last year.
Yes.
Undefeated season on the line. I have full faith in that pass rush to make everything difficult for Arch in that game.
And probably, and we need to see what happens with Georgia. Georgia also plays Texas in a couple of weeks. Probably a win in for the title game.
Yeah.
If you lose, you're going to need help, I imagine, depending on the way it plays out. So just like it was last year, I think the difference is this year's team. Last year's Texas team was damn near super team. Like,
yeah,
they had a dozen NFL draft picks. Like, this Texas A&M team is built to go into Austin and beat that Texas team.
Yep. I'm going to go watch this team play in 2 weeks.
It's going to be gas.
Can't wait. They're going to play South Carolina. Yeah, their next two are Missouri and South Carolina. Don't want to jinx anything, but you're feeling good if you're an Aggies fan, I think, when you look at the rest of the schedule, the rest of the way.
And Mike Elko is the coach of the year. Him and Signetti are the coaches.
Yeah, which one do you give it to, dude?
Can't go wrong. We'll see what happens with IU down the stretch. I mean, IU should go 12-0 going into the title game. So
what if they're both 12-0? Whoever wins the conference title game, when does the voting happen? What if they both win the Big Ten in the SEC?
That would be something.
That would feel very 07.
Cut the cake in half and give them each half of it.
Yeah. All right. Quick peek at the SEC standings here. A&M's at the top. Alabama's right there. Ole Miss, Georgia, Vandy. Feels like everybody else is kind of out of the mix at this point, Raza. The teams that have a shot, feels like it's A&M, Alabama, Ole Miss, Georgia, and then Vandy's still sticking around there. I think Texas is done, though. I think it's those 5 that have a shot. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say the winner of Vanderbilt and Texas this weekend is that 5th team, because the other one would have 2 losses. Everybody else would have 1 or 0. We've said for weeks it feels like it's a Aggie Crimson Tide collision course for Atlanta. We'll see how it plays out down the stretch, because Bama still does have a couple tough ones. I guess LSU is a tough game on paper, but who knows what that looks like next week. And they still have to play Oklahoma, who could be stingy, I guess. But you're right. Like, Oklahoma is now out of the picture. Florida's been out of the picture. LSU is out of the picture. South Carolina's season has been nothing short of a disaster, if we're being quite honest with ourselves. Tennessee could sneak back in, but I think losing to Georgia and Bama means that they're pretty much cooked. So I would say, yeah, A&M, Bama, Ole Miss, Georgia, and then the winner of the Vanderbilt, Texas game this week. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think Georgia's still one of those teams, man, that like they're going to linger and they're going to find their way to sneak into the championship game. And then they're going to find their way to win the championship game. We're going to be like, oh my God, like we didn't talk about them a month ago. And now all of a sudden it's happening again for the billionth year in a row. So we'll see. But that Texas Vanderbilt game, I think, is going to go a long way to determining the picture itself going into the last month of the year.
Crazy. The Texas Vanderbilt game, which was a close game last year.
Yes, it was. When Vanderbilt wasn't nearly as good as they are now.
Right. So
they were good.
Texas was better than they are right now.
Texas was better, yeah.
So definitely interesting. Touch on Alabama here. Sticks and stones, because Alabama grits one out at South Carolina on the road. Williams-Brice Stadium, never an easy place to play. And my takeaway from this game, Raza, was first and foremost, this is Southeastern Conference football. You're going to have games like this from time to time. You should have games like this from time to time. My takeaway from this isn't a knock on Alabama. My takeaway from this is they show you can win any kind of game. Again, kind of like what we talked about with Texas A&M. Like they figure it out, right? And the other thing I would say to that is this is so Kalen DeBoer. Like, look at his year that they went to the national championship at Washington. How many games went to the wire like this with a couple of scares in the mix as well?
Yeah,
They
beat Washington State by 3 that year.
They didn't win every game by 40 points, dude. Like, but also I think that era of the sport is kind of gone. The way you can't stockpile talent and build these dynasties like Saban and Kirby did. Like, I think Alabama fans that are upset this week have to realize, like, yeah, Saban's not walking through that door, and that's okay. This is still a really good football team. I still have them as number 4 in the country, even though they went on the road and had a little bit of a scare against South Carolina, who has some talent. I think that's actually where they've
got plenty.
I think that's where they fall behind. I don't think they're supplying their enough talent around their quarterback to actually be a competitive team in the SEC. Particularly the wide receiver room. That's kind of a conversation for another day. We don't have time to dive into South Carolina. Shane Beamer's going to Virginia Tech anyways. Kidding. Not happening, folks. Not happening, folks.
Can I say something, though?
Yeah, go for it.
I don't know that he'll be back at South Carolina. I think he'll be somewhere else.
Yeah.
I think that I don't know that it's a lack of talent, Gio. I think it actually is coaching that's letting them down.
Really?
Yeah. Like, don't get me wrong. Nick Harbor is the definition of just an athlete out there playing football with no football skills. He cannot catch the ball for diddly squat, but when they get the ball in his hands, good things happen. Like, they have talent at running back and wide receiver. They have a quarterback who could go first in the draft, for crying out loud. And they're 1-5 in the SEC. That just can't happen.
Yeah. If Virginia Tech
they have the best edge rusher, arguably, in the nation. If
Virginia Tech were to hire Shane Beamer, they better make sure and seriously look in the mirror, make sure they're doing it for the right reasons. Because if the reason they hire Shane Beamer is because he wasn't winning and needed a scapegoat out of South Carolina, and all of a sudden that Virginia Tech job looked a lot more appealing than it did week 2, you'd be hiring Shane Beamer for every single one of the wrong reasons. But
that's right.
That's also a conversation I feel like for we could have whatever conversation you want. It's your show too, bro.
That's true. I want to touch on Alabama quickly as well, because I obviously leave this game thinking like, yeah, it's good. Alabama can tough out a close win like this. But I also know that I don't give teams a ton of credit for thugging out close wins, because if you're the better team in college football, you should win the football game. It's plain and simple. Like, I don't sugarcoat it when it comes to any team anywhere. Like, if it's one thing if you do what Texas did at Mississippi State, where you come back from 17 down in the fourth quarter. Like, I understand Bama was down by 14 with like 3 minutes left, but what is the story if Lenoris doesn't fumble at the end of the game? Like, that's the game.
Yeah.
South Carolina was going to drive to maybe win it with a field goal, and instead Lenoris fumbles the ball. Like, it felt more... lucky's not the right word, but it felt more like... And obviously you have to force the goddamn fumble, right? Deontay Lawson gets in there and gets his paw in there and strips Lenoris. But, I mean, how many times is Lenoris Sellers fumbling the ball on a designed run in a pile of bodies? Like, you don't see that very... I mean, shoot, if it was the Philadelphia Eagles, they would have blown the play dead like they did against the Giants. We'll talk about that when we talk about the NFL. Like, I'm just saying, I think Bama was a little lucky to get away with this one, because I feel like over the course of this game, and you can tell me I'm wrong, I didn't feel like they were the better team on Saturday. I just felt like they executed better in the later stages, which is good. That's everything you need to win. It kind of reminded me of 2017, they almost lost to Mississippi State in Starkville, but Hurts hit Devontae Smith at the last second for a game-winning touchdown. I don't know if you remember that. And I was like, yeah, Bama's a better team. They should win these games, and you obviously deserve to win, quote unquote, if you execute late in the game. But throughout the course of this game, I was like, it just felt like it was South Carolina's game to lose, and then they did. And that's different than like, I'm trying to think of a better example, but like it's different than if you are right, like neck and neck with the team the whole way, which they weren't not. But I'm saying if you're down 14 with 3 minutes left, like I see both sides of the argument. So I don't really feel any differently about Alabama than I did going into the game. But a moment of vulnerability like this, I think, was due for this Bama team that's beaten like 5 ranked opponents in a row now.
Yeah, I think, and I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think my take on it was just that. Let me phrase it a different way, and maybe it'll like click a little bit differently. Alabama went out there, and we've seen them play really good football. This was far from their best. I think they played like a C-level game for what we've seen Alabama do at times this year against better teams. So I think they played like a C-level game for Alabama in 2025. And they still won on the road, a conference game. So if you're going on the road in the SEC and playing a C-level game and still walking out of there with a win, that's why I don't move Alabama from where I had them as like a top 5 team in the country and a title contender.
But remember, Vanderbilt went to South Carolina and won by 24. Like,
yeah, but Vanderbilt played their A game that day.
I guess they did.
Alabama, if they played their A game, probably would have won by 24 too.
Lenore's also got hurt in that game, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct. Yeah, fairly early too.
Yeah, you're right. Give and take, right? The nature of the SEC. The South Carolina team has been Jekyll and Hyde all season. This was probably the best performance they've had all year, and it still wasn't enough.
Weird things happen in Cocktober.
Weird things do happen.
That's how it works at South Carolina.
It was electric. Holy cow.
Oh, yeah.
I loved how they were wearing. I don't know if it's old school, but for me, when I think of South Carolina, it's not the black helmet and the black pants. It's the white garnet. I love the white helmet and then the garnet look. So that they were dripped out. The place was electric.
It was clean.
Wish they could have gotten it done. That would have been cool for the sport.
I'm glad Alabama won because
you got narratives to defend.
Yeah, exactly. I claimed.
Do you still feel that way?
Yeah. No, I think Texas A&M's the best team in the SEC right now.
Welcome to the good side.
Because I think Texas A&M's here's a stat for you that really tells the story for me. Really, like, I'm a big believer in football is won in the trenches, right? Mm-hmm. Texas A&M has absolutely dominated the line of scrimmage in their last 4 SEC games. The offensive line, this is the last 4 SEC games for A&M. Offensive line has given up 0 sacks. 0. The defensive line has amassed 18 sacks. Trench warfare. That's the makings of national championship caliber football right there. If you're playing in the trenches like that with the skill position players that they have. Yes. So I think A&M's probably the best team in the league.
Yeah, I'm going to have to see them get knocked off. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess you're as good as your last performance in football, but we do have to look at the whole body of work. Like, I just think the Florida State loss stands out like a sore thumb. Like, Heather Dinich of ESPN went out there and was like projecting the 12-team field. She was like, I'm putting Alabama at 3. I'm like, why? Yeah. Why would you put Alabama above Texas A&M? So until I see it proven otherwise, A&M is my top dog in the SEC for sure. But Bama's 2 because they beat Georgia, and Georgia's 3 because they beat Ole Miss. Fair enough?
Fair enough. Let's kind of roll through these. There's just not a ton to talk about here. The Doors get it done again. Mucky game. Barely. No Bo Prabula the rest of the way from Missouri, so they're done. Vandy keeps winning. Game day was cool.
Game day was lit.
I'm getting
That
Vandy fatigue. Maybe that's. I'm gonna look at myself in 10 years and be mad at myself that like I didn't appreciate more that Vanderbilt, Indiana, and Georgia Tech are all in the top 10, and Texas A&M. Like I need to
but
appreciate the moment
I
with
think
Vandy.
Indiana is more likable than Vanderbilt, in my opinion.
So much more likable. Vanderbilt is not Vanderbilt. Diego Pavia is making Vanderbilt unlikable.
And remember how after Indiana beat Oregon, when they interviewed Mendoza after the game, and he was just like so enthusiastically like giving love
Like
to
a
his
golden
teammates
retriever.
and his coaches and the fans and all these other things. And they asked Diego Pavia yesterday about the game, and he's like, "Yeah, I think I should win the Heisman Trophy." I'm like, bro, while wearing his NIL brand hat, whatever it said, like to something, I don't even know. But like, listen, Pavia is a fun player and all, but I understand the concept of Vanderbilt fatigue. He is a fun player. He is a good player. He deserves to be in the top 5 or whatever he is in Heisman odds. But I guess I'm curious, how long can they keep it up? If they go out there and beat Texas, they're probably a playoff team, right? Like,
Probably at this point, yeah.
I'm pretty sure they do still have to play Tennessee at the end of the season. But that's not the most difficult opponent necessarily with how they're playing. I mean, Tennessee has no defense, so we'll see what Diego Pavia and company do to them. But like, things get really interesting if they beat Texas. Who knows what this game would have looked like if Pabula never got hurt? I've seen a lot of people online saying that it was a dirty play. I don't think it was a dirty play. Anybody who's ever played football knows when you got a guy by the legs, you just got to hold on and let your teammates finish the job. Like, sometimes you just catch a guy at a bad spot. Like Cam Scadaboo broke his ankle
Terrible.
yesterday in the NFL. I don't think that the Eagles defender meant to break his ankle. Sometimes it's just the nature of the sport. So heartbroken definitely for Bo Perbula. Kind of crazy how him and Aller both broke their legs this year. That's kind of a weird interlinked fate that they had. But even still, Missouri completes the Hail Mary at the end of this game, and they're half a yard short. Like, anything could have happened here.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt was the better team, but like, you got to wonder, what does it look like if Pabula doesn't get hurt? What does it look like if they complete the Hail Mary? Does Missouri go for 2 and win the game? Do they win it in overtime? Like, anything could have happened. But I'm not going to play the if and buts or maybes game. Like, Vanderbilt, they're plenty good. I'm fascinated to see what the Texas game looks like, because that's their whole season essentially. They can't lose to Alabama and Texas. Those are their 2 biggest opponents.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. Ole Miss gets back on track. Going into this thing, I know we didn't get to do our picks video this past week, but going into this thing, so many people were in on Oklahoma. So many people picked Oklahoma, and I never bought that. Vegas picked Oklahoma. I never bought that. I felt so confident in Ole Miss going into this game, and Ole Miss went out there and delivered. They get back on track. I think it's safe to say, Raza, it's over at this point for Oklahoma. Mateer, and it's unfortunate, he just does not look like himself. That's what happens when you get surgery on your throwing hand. But even like running the ball, he hasn't been the same. He's just so limited, and that's not his fault. I don't know. I think it's over for Oklahoma. I wonder what how toasty it feels for Brent Venables, if at all. Just kind of feels like that was the story of this, right? Oklahoma doesn't get it done. We're looking at Oklahoma playing in the Cheez-It Bowls or something like that, and Ole Miss is looking like a playoff contender still.
Yeah, Ole Miss is squarely back in the playoff mix, as if they ever left. I mean, they're the number 8 team in the country going into this game, but this was a very tough test for them. Like, I think for me, Gio, obviously Mateer has struggled tremendously, but we look at Oklahoma, we look at Brent Venables, their performances earlier in the year, and they're like, yeah, this defense is tough and stingy, and it's hard to move the ball on them. And it just felt like Ole Miss got whatever they wanted on offense in this game. The second half was a bit of a slog for them, but like that first half, it was like, this game is not in question. This game is not in doubt. They had 22 points in the first half on the road. So I don't think that this is anything to warm up Brent Venable's seat. I think the season has largely been a success for Oklahoma. We don't know what it would have looked like if Mateer never got hurt. I would have picked Ole Miss to win this game as well, and it just felt like this is where these two teams are at. Oklahoma's good, but not good enough. Ole Miss is good enough to be in the playoff, but we don't know what it's going to look like once they're in there.
Where can the people find us, my friend?
They can find us at Got It Covered FB on all social media platforms. I don't know what the rest of this college football season has in store. Okay, I don't know if we're going to have a playoff with a first round matchup of Virginia at Vanderbilt. But if it is going to happen and you're thinking to yourself, I can't quantify this, how is this happening? Just come to us at Got It Covered FB on all social media platforms. We're going to be just as dumbfounded as you, but we're going to put our brains together and try to figure out what the hell is going on. So he's at Geo Heater or at Giovanni Heater on all socials. I'm at Reza Marani. Oh my goodness. We got a Chiron now. Welcome to the future, kids. The future is now.
Yeah. You know it.
And of course, NFL reactions will be coming out later this week. We'll get both picks out this week. Promise. Pinky promise. We wouldn't leave you hanging back-to-back weeks. So yeah, we got a fun week coming up. And by the way, next week, maybe a one-off special reacting to the playoff rankings on Tuesday.
I think we should. We should do that, and we should do a coaching carousel video. Maybe bring on a friend of the show.
I would be down for that.
All right, sweet.
We'll see you guys then.
We appreciate you as always. We got you covered.